Welcome to Cheat Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. She sat across from me at our kitchen table, took a sip of her $18 organic wine, and told me I was just a phase while she figured out what she really wanted, that I was comfortable and safe and she'd come back to me when she was ready to settle down. And I looked at her and said, good to know. Not sarcastically. Not with anger. Just the clean, simple acknowledgement of a man who had just been handed all the information he needed to make a decision she never expected me to make. My name is Ryan. I'm 26. I'm a plumber, good at it, well paid for it, entirely unapologetic about it. I was dating a girl named Brooke for about 2.5 years before that Thursday night conversation rearranged everything. Brooke was the kind of person who could walk into any room and pull all the gravity toward her. Outgoing, spontaneous, genuinely fun. The first year was honestly good. She pulled me out of my comfort zone, I learned things, we had a real dynamic. But somewhere into year 2, the center of her world shifted. A new circle of friends with an appetite for festivals and rooftop parties and any event that would look incredible on Instagram. And at the center of that circle was Rebecca, 26, some vague marketing job, an unlimited appetite for experiences, and a particular talent for convincing Brooke that being with a good man was somehow settling too early. My dad Jim had met Rebecca exactly once. That one's trouble, he said on the drive home. Dead eyes. Personality of a motivational poster. He wasn't wrong. The conversation that ended everything happened on a completely ordinary Thursday. Stir fry I'd made, her wine she'd insisted on, and me asking if she wanted to be my plus one to a friend's October wedding. She laughed. Not a small laugh. A full laugh. Said October was 5 months away. Who knows where we'd be by then? I put my fork down and asked what she meant. She took another sip of wine and told me that she wasn't ready to settle down yet. That I was comfortable and safe, like a security blanket. The kind of guy she'd come back to when she was ready for serious stuff. But right now, I was just a phase while she figured out what she really wanted. I asked her if she assumed I'd just wait. She shrugged. Said why wouldn't I? Said I'd still be here doing my plumber thing, making decent money, being stable. Said that was what I was good at. I was literally a bookmark. Something to close and return to when the fun chapters were done. Good to know where I stand, I said. She told me not to be dramatic. Said most guys would appreciate her honesty instead of being strung along. You're right, I said. I do appreciate the honesty. She smiled and went back to scrolling Instagram. That night, I called my dad. He picked up on the second ring. I told him what she said. His voice went flat, which with my dad means something specific. Not angry, not emotional. Quiet and dangerous, the way it gets when he's actually paying attention. Congratulations, he said. You just got handed the best information you could possibly receive. Most people waste years figuring out what you just learned in one conversation. I asked what he meant. She told you exactly who she is and what you mean to her. Believe her. Now act accordingly. My dad raised me alone after my mom died when I was 12. Taught me plumbing. Taught me how to fix things with my hands and how to be straight with people and how to read a situation without flinching. He has this particular talent for saying exactly what everyone else is thinking but hasn't found the courage to say yet. Act accordingly, he said. And I did. Starting that weekend, Brooke wanted to go to some warehouse party downtown that Rebecca had found. I told her to have fun without me. Said I was good. She seemed pleased. Said she was glad I wasn't being clingy. What she didn't know was that I had already started using those weekends differently. I stopped investing in us. Not as punishment, just practically. Stopped buying groceries for her place. Stopped making plans with her friend group. People I was never going to see again once she moved on anyway. She didn't notice because she was too busy living her best life. Pool parties, music festivals, spontaneous road trips to Austin and Nashville with Rebecca narrating every moment with enthusiastic caption suggestions. Meanwhile, I signed up for the woodworking class I had been putting off for years. Joined a Saturday morning hiking group. Started volunteering at a community center teaching basic coding to kids. And then I made the move that would eventually change everything. I started looking at houses. I had been saving money from plumbing jobs for years, always telling myself I was waiting for the right time. waiting for us to be ready together. If there was no us in my future, I was done waiting. I found a fixer-upper in Riverside. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a huge backyard, built in 1954. Original hardwood floors and a mid-century fireplace. The kitchen was straight out of the 70s. Avocado green tiles in the bathroom. Needed serious work. Had incredible bones. I brought my dad. He walked the property for 10 minutes, checked the foundation, looked at the electrical panel, tested the water pressure. Roof's solid. Foundation hasn't shifted in 70 years. Electrical needs work, but nothing major. You'd be stupid not to buy it. The previous owners had been an elderly couple who had lived there for 40 years and maintained everything perfectly. They had even left behind the workshop in the garage. Vintage tools from the 1950s, a workbench that had been built to last. My dad nearly had a heart attack when he saw it. I put in the offer without saying a word to Brooke. She was at Coachella with Rebecca, posting stories of herself covered in glitter dancing to DJs I had never heard of. I got the acceptance confirmation while she was sending me videos of some art installation shaped like a giant cactus. "Miss you, babe. This is incredible. Have fun," I texted back. Then went back to reviewing the inspection report with my dad. He asked when I was going to tell Princess Partygirl about the house. I told him I wasn't. That she wasn't going to be living in it. He grinned. "That's my boy." The hiking group was where things started clicking into a different shape. Every Saturday at 7 in the morning, we met at different trailheads around the city. I was sleeping better, thinking clearer, moving through my days with a direction I hadn't felt in a long time. That's where I met Sophie. She's 23, a personal trainer, with a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard completely. Our first real conversation was about trail mix. "Whoever decided raisins belong in trail mix clearly hates joy," she said, picking them out of her bag. "Finally," I said, "raisins are just disappointed grapes." She looked at me. "Oh man, that's dark. I like it." We started hiking together most weekends. Just friends at first, since I was technically still with Brooke, even though Brooke had made it clear I was holding her place in line while she finished enjoying herself. Sophie helped me pick tile for the renovation. Turned out she knew more about home improvement than anyone had a right to know. "Why do you know so much about grout?" I asked at Home Depot one Saturday. Her dad was a contractor. She had spent summers working for him instead of going to camp. The first day she came to help with the house, my dad was installing kitchen cabinets. I was nervous about them meeting. I shouldn't have been. Dad looked up from his level when she walked in. "Ryan's told me about you. All good things, I hope. He said you have opinions about tile. That's either very good or very bad." Sophie laughed. "Depends on the tile." He told me he liked her already. Then asked her position on subway tile. Timeless but overused. Good for resale value. Boring for actual living. He turned back to the cabinet. "Yep. I like her. She was genuinely useful too. Not performing being helpful, actually helpful. Spotted a problem with the kitchen layout the second weekend she came over that would have cost me thousands to fix later if I had missed it. My dad was impressed. I was falling for her." Brooke came back from Burning Man 3 days later looking like she'd been through a sandstorm. Sunburned and exhausted and smelling like patchouli and regret. She came over to my apartment, dropped onto the couch, and asked what the big serious talk was about. I told her I wanted to thank her. She looked confused. I said I wanted to thank her for being honest about what she thought of me, that it had really clarified things. She tried to walk it back immediately. Said she hadn't meant it in a bad way. I told her I knew exactly how she had meant it. That she wanted to have fun now and settle down later. That I respected that completely. But I had realized I didn't want to be anyone's phase. She stared at me. Said we were good together. Said I was perfect for her eventually. Eventually, I said. Key word. She told me I was overreacting. That I was being so dramatic. Said most girls wouldn't even be honest about this stuff. I told her to take all the time she needed. Just not on my clock. She left angry and confused. Within an hour, she was posting Instagram stories with quotes about knowing your worth and men who can't handle strong women who know what they want. Fine by me. I had crown molding to install. I called Dad to let him know it was officially over. How'd she take it? About as well as you'd expect. Lots of dramatic quotes about men who can't handle honesty. Good. Are you coming over tomorrow? That crown molding isn't going to install itself. Brooke went into full party overdrive after the breakup. Her Instagram became a non-stop highlight reel of clubs and festivals and spontaneous adventures. Every caption was about freedom and authentic living and finally choosing herself. Meanwhile, I was renovating my house, hiking on Saturday mornings, watching vegetables actually grow in my backyard, and spending time with Sophie and my dad in a way that felt easy in a way nothing had in years. About 2 months in, our mutual friend Chris mentioned the house to Brooke. Her texts arrived in a wave. You bought a house? When were you going to tell me? We talked about buying a house together. That last one made me laugh. We had never discussed buying anything together. She had specifically told me she wasn't ready to settle down. I finally replied, I bought a house for my future. You made it clear you weren't part of that future. Why would I consult you? She called 15 times over the next 2 hours. I was helping Sophie plant tomatoes in the backyard. She knows everything about gardening too. I don't fully understand how, but I've stopped asking. That night, Brooke went nuclear on social media. Posted a long thing about men who make major life decisions in secret and can't communicate. Rebecca appeared from a fake account in the comments calling me manipulative and clearly threatened by Brooke's independence. The irony was genuinely impressive. The woman who had told me I was just a phase was angry that I had planned a future without her. Things stayed quiet for about a month. Then Brooke's 25th birthday arrived and something in her shifted. Her Instagram changed. Less party. More philosophical quotes about new chapters and personal growth. She texted me asking to talk. We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. She looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before. Like someone who had been running very fast for a long time and had finally stopped and was only now feeling all of it. She said she had been doing real thinking. That she was ready now. For settling down, for being serious. That she had gotten the party phase out of her system. She said it like she was doing me a favor. I asked what made her think I had been sitting around waiting. She said we had been good together. That I had loved her and love doesn't just disappear. And then, like it was an explanation rather than an insult, she said it wasn't like I had tons of options anyway. Even now, even in this moment, she was still doing it. I told her she was right. That I had loved her. Past tense. That she had told me I was a phase, so I had acted accordingly. That I had moved forward with my life not to punish her, but because she had explicitly told me not to include her in it. She asked if it was about Sophie. I told her Sophie's name and said no, it wasn't about Sophie. It was about choosing to be with someone who didn't see me as something to settle for later. Someone who didn't need to exhaust every other option before deciding I was worth her time. She flinched. I watched her try one last angle. Asked what if she was pregnant. I looked at her for a long moment. Asked if she was. She admitted she wasn't. But said what if she had been. I told her quietly that what made her think I would automatically believe it was mine. She called me a name and left. That evening I was at the house with Dad and Sophie installing light fixtures. I told them about the conversation. Sophie's exact words were, "She actually said you don't have options because you're a plumber?" Word for word, I told her. Dad set down his screwdriver. That girl has no idea what she walked away from twice. Once when she decided you were a phase. Again today when she assumed you'd be grateful for her scraps. He picked up the screwdriver. Her loss, he said. Sophie, can you flip that breaker back on? The harassment that followed was its own chapter. The drive-bys, Rebecca showing up at Sophie's gym and trying to cause problems, the anonymous flowers on the porch, the packages sent to Sophie's workplace. My lawyer called it textbook. Said I had more than enough for a restraining order. I filed on a Monday. They were served Tuesday afternoon. About a week later, just before 11 at night, I was working on the back deck when I heard something on the front porch. I opened the door to find Brooke sitting on the steps, clearly drunk, surrounded by 24 roses, crying with makeup running down her face. She said she wanted to come home. That she loved me. That she had always loved me and Rebecca had been wrong about everything. I told her she couldn't be there. That there was a restraining order. She said she didn't care about the paper. I had my phone out and dialed before she finished the sentence. The officers arrived about 10 minutes later. Brooke was still on the lawn at that point, lying in the grass, crying about wanting to fix things. They cuffed her and walked her to the patrol car while I gave my statement. One of the officers told me this probably wouldn't be her only violation. Her car had been parked illegally. The tow truck was already pulling it onto the flatbed when they drove away. Dad showed up 20 minutes later. Looked at the rose petals scattered across the porch. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Just glad it's finally over." "Is it though?" "Has to be. She's looking at real charges now." Sophie arrived a few minutes after that. The three of us swept up the glass and picked up the rose petals. Sophie said something that stayed with me. "I almost feel sorry for her. She had something real and she threw it away because her friend convinced her she could do better." Dad shook his head. "Rebecca didn't convince her of anything. She just gave Brooke permission to do what she already wanted. Rebecca was the excuse, not the cause." I looked around the house. The kitchen we had renovated. The garden in the backyard. The life I had built in the months since that Thursday night conversation over a stir-fry I had cooked and wine she had insisted on. "Her loss," I said. Dad finished sweeping the last of the glass off the porch. "Should have listened to me from the beginning. I told you she was trouble." "Yeah, you did." "Of course I did. It's my job to spot them before they waste your time. Although, to be fair, she wasted way more of her time than yours." He put the broom away and looked at me and Sophie. "Crisis over. Sophie, you staying for dinner?" "I'm making chili." "Is it actually famous?" she asked. "Depends on your definition. Ryan's been eating it for 20 years and he's not dead yet." "That's not exactly a ringing endorsement," I said. "You want a ringing endorsement? It's better than anything you cook." He turned back to the door. "Now let's go inside before the neighbors start talking about the woman who got arrested in your front yard." I stood there for a second before following them in. Brooke had called me a phase. A placeholder. A security blanket she would come back to when she was done having fun. She had said it calmly, over wine, like she was describing a plan that made complete logical sense and I would obviously go along with. And the truest thing I can tell you is that none of what followed, not the house, not the hiking group, not Sophie, not the woodworking, not any of it, was revenge. It was just what happens when someone tells you exactly who they are and exactly where you stand and you choose to believe them the first time instead of spending years waiting for them to change their mind. She wanted me to be a phase in her life. Something she'd come back to after the party ended. Instead, she became what she had designated me. Just a phase. One I had grown completely out of. I went inside to help my dad with the chili. Thank you for watching.